Williams. Jonathan is the president and chief economist of ALEC. The good man that he is, he's still from Michigan. And last night he left the misimpression that the old days when they played without helmets in Michigan, Ohio State matter. I set the record straight at breakfast this morning for the 1,800 members at the ALEC convention that in this millennium, Ohio State has won 18 games and Michigan has won 7. John, did you take note of that?
I did. What about the last 5 years?
I do the millennium. I only count by millenniums. So we'll keep. I think you turn the page. I've been impressed today. Your members are really smart. I did not know that you had stood up a military and veterans task force.
Yes.
That's not on my notes to talk to you about, but I think that's wicked smart. And if North Carolina isn't going to tax North Carolina veterans pay, they're going to get a lot of veterans moving there. Is that well known?
You know, it's got to be more known, right? I mean, and this is a key example of something that a legislator brought to us who's a reservist who now is in leadership. You've talked to him, Speaker Pro Tem Wills from Iowa.
Yeah.
He brought this idea to us. He said, why don't we do this at ALEC? And, you know, with Lisa and I, we like to think pretty expansively, and if we can dream it, we can build it. And we have legislative interest in something as important as veterans and military affairs. Why in the world wouldn't we do that? And so it's a great full task force. We've got over 100 state legislators involved in that task force now talking about the policies that really matter to military families and veterans.
Oh, they're going to outcompete each other because those folks do eventually retire and then they figure out where to live and they're going to go where they get the biggest bang for the buck. And I thought North Carolina always won because they had the most bases. No, they actually treat the veterans the best, and so they win. Now, Iowa treats them pretty well, too, but North Carolina might be a little bit gentler in the winter. So did you send up other new task forces today?
Yeah, so 2 new task forces this year. That's the one, and the other is the Process and Procedures Task Force that we've talked about on election integrity issue. You know, you had great comments on the need for voter ID and election integrity today. So those are the 2 brand new task forces. We have 11 in total across the ALEC landscape.
Other than voter ID, what are the other ones in the procedures and process? What are the ideas floating around in that?
Well, I mean, it's things like citizen-only voting. It's things like watching foreign influence in state ballot measures.
Let's talk about that.
This is a big deal in Ohio and other states,
that happened
right?
in Ohio. Dark money came in from abroad to try and change the laws of Ohio, and they have passed a law to forbid that now. Is that going to become a model law for other states?
I think so. We're talking about that this week. Senate President McCauley, who you've talked with, was a real leader in that effort because, I mean, it's ridiculous to most Americans that foreign entities, billionaires, are prohibited from giving to candidates directly, but they can come in and influence state ballot measures all they'd like. And this is the progressive left's playbook, as they go around the conservative common sense state legislators and go to the ballots and put these billions of dollars now from out of country billionaires and dark money groups and with no accountability. So it's a common sense idea.
Jonathan, I want to ask you, Lisa Nelson and you have been working together how long?
Over 10 years now.
So you've got the economist dream job, meaning that you can actually do policy while you're doing economics. And I know that Kevin might get Hassett, good guy, good friend of the program, might end up being the Fed chair. How many other economists are happy with what they're doing? I mean, most people don't listen to them all the time. You got to be thrilled.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was just with Art Laffer a second ago.
Oh, were you?
He's another one. I mean, right? I mean, the happy economists.
He's a generational legendary. He's like the Vince Lombardi of economists.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Laffer curve at 50, as you know, we'll be celebrating that tonight here with Dr. Laffer and Steve Moore and some other luminaries coming to celebrate with the ALEC attendees tonight.
Does every state have decent economic analysis attached in their legislative analyst job?
Not even close.
Now tell me, why is that?
Well, one thing it's somewhat difficult for states to do well, and a lot of times the bureaucrats don't want to do it, right? I mean, if you were there at lunch where we heard former Chairman Henserling today talking about bureaucrats always wanting more money, wanting no accountability, that's the same issue when it comes to a lot of the economic forecasting that states have set up. There is zero supply side Laffer style analysis. They do these static scores, which means that if you cut tax rates by 10%, you lose 10% revenue. We know in a real world, people change their behavior based on incentives and taxes. That doesn't ever happen where it goes, a 10% is a straight line reduction. And so states are missing that critical element to bringing reality to the forecasting that they do.
Have any in your profession, is a profession because you actually need a degree in economics to be able to do it. Have they forecast where the population of the United States is going to live based upon migration patterns? Because They're not going to stay in California and New York. It's crazy to stay there. They're not going to stay there. Have you done any forecasting on where they're going to move to?
Well, as you may know, with the economic outlook ranking in rich states, poor states, there's a very tight correlation to the states that have the best economic outlook rankings and where people are moving. Not just net domestic migration, but overall population changes. The number one state, 18 years running, as you know well, is Utah.
Florida's no longer number two.
And they're always in the hunt, but Utah's been number one. Coincidentally or not, what's the fastest growing population state over the last decade? Utah. And so there's clear connections that obviously it's not just that simple, but you look at the top 10 versus the bottom 10, lots of different ways to slice and dice it, in taxes and other key measures of affordability like housing costs and energy costs and healthcare costs are all reasons obviously why people move.
How do you measure whether people are serious about building more homes and apartments? Because that actually, if you're 18 to 25 and you're looking to move somewhere, you want to know where the houses are going to be plentiful and the apartments don't break your back. How do you measure that?
Well, that's a tough one to measure. We don't measure it directly yet in rich states, poor states, but it's one of the many ideas over the course of this year you've given us to add new metrics to the latest and greatest in the future and updated rich states, poor states.
I just don't know how you would capture it.
It's tough to do.
It's done on a local.
But I think the one way to do it is measure the impact of government regulation on the cost of housing. We've talked about this, where in Virginia, the brilliant Glenn Youngkin and his amazing economic plan that we've seen over the last 4 years gives so much money back to the hardworking taxpayers of Virginia. What most people don't know is the price of actually building a new home in Virginia has decreased substantially. I think it's something like $25,000 less now to build a new home in Virginia because of regulatory relief and real supply side reforms that you were talking about earlier today.
Well, yeah, I had California in mind because, of course, the NIMBY has been the dominant boomer aspect while the boomers were in charge, and they're aging out now. And I think people are realizing their kids are not going to be able to, the Gen X kids are not going to be able to buy a house if they don't build a lot more. How do you measure education choice for the metric purposes of richstate-poorstates.com?
Well, that's one that we have our own report, the ALEC Education Freedom Index, which will the new edition will be out for National School Choice Week in January, where then we look at the states on the financing programs, their friendliness to homeschooling, lots of different ways that we think empower parents across the board to choose those educational options that are best for their kids. So that's the way that we measure it at ALEC, and then we can feed it in with the rich states, poor states, our energy affordability index, and so many of the other publications that we put together.
1 minute. So, Jonathan, thank you. I need to do my relief factor pitch here, but I appreciate very much being here, and I'm glad that we set the record straight on the millennium record of Michigan and Ohio State, 18-7 for the Buckeyes.